everyone, this is Paige here, and I'm here today to talk about my Gatsby Pinterest lesson that I created for our project this week. Now, before starting this project, and as I have it listed in the lesson plan, me and my students, we would probably read a good portion of The Great Gatsby before I would assign this project to them, because in order to complete the project, they have to have a well-rounded knowledge of each of the characters. So I personally would probably assign this after chapter 7, which, as most English teachers who do teach this book would know, chapter 7 is pretty much where a lot of the good action of the book happens. If no one has ever read it before, I don't want to spoil it, but a major character, they die. So a lot of good stuff just happens, and also up to that point, we've gotten to know a lot of the different characters pretty well, so I feel confident that after Chapter 7, students could fully complete this project, and they'd be able to do it no problem. So anyway, back to this. So it says, after reading part of The Great Gatsby, which I would say after Chapter 7, students, they're going to be allowed to work with a partner where they're going to create a Pinterest board for a character of their choice. Now, some of the feedback that I got suggested putting the kids in, like having them work in partners rather than individual, and I really like that idea, especially because, one, that'll cut down on the number of projects that I would have to look at and grade, and two, as I know some students, they're not as comfortable, or they may like bouncing ideas off of each other better. And so they can have the option to work with a partner, or if they want to work individual, because I do have some kids sometimes where they just don't want to be with anyone, they can do it by themselves, but I will allow them to work with a partner so they can collaborate and share ideas. And then also the word Pinterest is in quotations here because I'm not going to limit the students to the type of mode that they use, like the formatting program, and I'll talk about that in another second. But anyway, so for the project, they're going to be allowed to choose from the characters of Gatsby, Nick, Daisy, Tom, Myrtle, or Jordan. Now, I always get this question when I assign my summative essay at the end of the unit as to why I usually don't include Wilson as one of the options to write about. And I did not include him for the same exact reason in this list either, mainly because while he does play an important role later on in the novel, we don't really get to learn as much about him throughout the book as people would like. I mean, pretty much all we know about him is that he's an auto mechanic, and that's about it. So there's not much to do with him, so that's why he is not included on this list. So up to this point, which would be the end of Chapter 7, we will have been discussing the characters and their personality traits enough that the students will have a general idea of each one. Something that I like to do as we read the novel, I read this book in my own classroom because I know my kids won't read it at home, so we read together. And also I just love discussing as we read the events and the characters. So by this point, the students, they should know quite a bit about each of the characters, such as like their personality traits, why they act the way that they do, the things that they do, some of the things they don't do, such as in the case of Nick, who he never speaks up or says anything. So this will be a good point in the book for the kids, and they should be fully confident in order to find the images that they need. So continuing on, the students, they have two options where if they choose to sign up for Pinterest, or if they already have one, they may use that platform. Now I know, I'm pretty sure, I don't think in 2019 Pinterest is as popular as it used to be, so some students may already have one, some may not. I feel like more girls than boys would have one, but if they do, they can feel free to use that and create a board. Or if they want to sign up for it, all I know when I've looked through it is that it just takes one simple click, especially if they already have a Gmail account, which every kid in our school does. So they can sign up and register for that. Or if they want to keep it simple, they can use like Word, and they can copy and paste the images in there and describe them. I'm not going to be super picky with what I choose, like with what program they use, as long as they complete the assignment and whatever they're with, because I want the kids to be I don't want them to be stressed out about this. Okay. Alright, so with their partner, the kids, they're going to be required to find at least 10 items, images, or objects that their chosen character would include on their board. Now, when I say items, images, and objects, that can include anything. It can be pictures of jewelry, it can be dresses, it can be cars, it can be a restaurant. There are so many different things that these kids can find and search for, and they can like even create some. That's why I wanted to do it, because with Pinterest there's so many options for what people like, and so that's why I included anything. And then the other part is that they also have to write a short description, which on here I have as 2 to 3 sentences for each item, and as to why the character would include it on their board. So if they have Daisy, like if the partnership chose Daisy and they included, say, a ring, they would have to create like 2 to 3 sentences, and it can even be dialogue as to like, why would Daisy include this ring? Okay, and they can talk about her personality, they can talk about how she's rich and she just loves jewelry, how in the movie and the book she's always dressed up, and anything would go as long as it relates to the character. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the rubric that I bring up in a few minutes here. So as far as assessment and everything, they'll be assessed on the amount of images they include as well as the descriptions, and I'll go into that a little bit more in a minute here. So goals, objectives, students will be able to analyze the different characters of The Great Gatsby, and students will be able to create a digital board of images for their chosen character. And then also down here I also have the standards, which I know everyone loves and cherishes those puppies, so there they are, you can look at them. Alright, so now I'm going to go into the rubric a little bit here, just kind of walk you through that. Okay, so I have this being only 50 points. I don't want to make it too dramatic for them as far as like point value, because I don't want them to stress out, and also it's very open to expression and I don't want to limit them to one thing. So I have 3 categories on here. I have an exceeds, a meets, and a needs work, and it's pretty easy to meet all the categories. So the first one is images used. So exceeds, it has them using 10 or more relevant images. Meets they only have 5 to 10 images. And then needs work is where they only include 1 to 5. So if you include 10 images, boom, you're golden. If you only include half the images, or if you don't include 10, then meh. And then if you only have 1 to 5, then you need to put some more work into it. Next up is the description of the images. So these are the sentences. So I have here, they have 2 to 3 that demonstrate the understanding. Next up, they only have 1 or 2 that demonstrate understanding. And then the last category, they only have 1 sentence that's relevant, or they don't even include anything at all. Okay. And then the last category, the word choice. I added this one in because I felt that like when they were describing the images, I wanted it to feel more like the main purpose is that they're supposed to pretend that they are the character and that they would be putting these images up. So I don't want them to put something like, Daisy would include this image because she's shallow. Like, I want them to pretend they are Daisy talking about the image. So for the exceeds, I added that students use proper wording to describe how the character feels about the image. And then there's no meets because they either do it or they don't. And then the needs work is they do not include wording that their chosen character would use. And that is pretty simple and basic for the rubric. Like I said, I'm looking for them to use the different technology and find the different images, and I want them to write the descriptions. And because it is so vague and kind of, it's not like a set kind of way of writing, that is why I'm not going to be grading as harshly. Like, it's more of a completion aspect is what I'm looking for. Okay, and then the last thing, just to kind of give them some examples kind of what I'm looking for here and what they can do. Like, this would be if they choose Word or if they do it on Google Docs. And so I know I did not meet expectations because I did not include enough sentences, but that's okay. Anyway, so the first picture I have up there is a standard 1920s style of ring, and I have, like, the caption will be, "Can't wait to wear this latest style at my next social gathering," and that would be, like, what Daisy says. Okay, it's a ring. Daisy's into fashion, also very expensive fashion, because she has lots of money from being married to Tom, so therefore, that would fit. And then the next image I have, it is a horse saddle. Okay, and the caption says, "Think this new saddle for my horses would look good," and that is something Tom would say, because if the students remember, Tom, he has a lot of money, and he has enough money that he has his own little string of polo ponies, which polo, that's where they're on the back of the horses. So a horse saddle would totally fit for Tom, especially because that one is a very expensive leather one, and therefore these images would fit. Now they can't use these images, but they can use similar things, like other images similar to it. Okay. Alright, and that is my lesson. I would probably, since my kids were on a block schedule where we meet for 90 minutes a day, I would probably give them 2 days to do this, to have everything done, just so that they don't feel rushed, and they can, like, talk and make sure they have all this stuff together. And that is probably, 2 days would probably be a good amount of time. If they want to share them with the class, I would allow them to, but I would not make it a requirement, as I know some kids are they get kind of stage fright, and they don't like talking in front of others, or they don't want to show their work. But I would extend the option, especially for anyone who does, like, a really great job. Okay? Alright, and that is my Gatsby Pinterest lesson, and thank you all for listening.